Welcome to each one of you. Today I'm going to be talking about loss and grief. Loss and grief is something that we will all experience in this life. While we're on this earth, we do have an end to our life. Death is inevitable. And so we're going to, in the process, experience loss and grief. But before I describe the grief cycle, it's important to tell you that there's elements that are the same, but there's many factors that will influence how guilt or grief will be felt. In other words, like I lost my husband. He passed away a year ago, this past March, and that following January, my mother passed. And at first, the grief got kind of melted together. And I had to, in this process, just pick apart the grief so that I could grieve my husband separately from grieving my mother. And so our factors are that our relationships with each person determines too the grief that we feel afterwards. And the more that your relationship was fulfilling and satisfying, usually your grief, yes, you will feel grief. It will be part of the process, but you will also feel a sense of peace. And that's what I felt. And so let's look at the grief cycle and see where you are or possibly have been on the grief cycle. One easy way to remember it is DABDA, and it's denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. Now, we don't go through each stage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're done. We usually bounce around. So you can be in denial one day, you can go to bargaining another day, you can go in depression and jump back, you can just go in the anger. Or you can get stuck in one of the cycles, and that's the thing to watch out for. Like men more often get stuck in the anger cycle, in the anger part stage. And women more often get stuck in the depression phase. So there's ways to process, and one of the ways to process is to journal. And I tell my clients, journal, 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 and journal. And talk to people. Talk to people that will hear and will understand and will be able to have empathy for you, to be able to hear you in those places. Because you need other relationships, and you need, why I say journal a lot, is that you need to have a voice specifically of what the grief is about. I know for me personally, I felt more guilt in certain ways over my husband, and that intensified the grief that I felt after. So that was part of the process of writing it out and forgiving myself and moving through the grief wherever in that place that I was stuck. Denial is when we find ourselves, usually it's the first phase because we find ourselves void of emotion, and sometimes that's just the body's way of helping us deal with that intense pain. It's just kind of going in a freeze state. So when we move through that, anger is always involved with loss. Now, sometimes you have to move to it. Like I said, sometimes women don't want to acknowledge the anger, and they want to stay in the sweetness of the depression. But anger is always involved with loss. You might be angry with God. You may be angry with that person, but anger says, no, don't take that from me. So anger is a part of it. Bargaining is obvious. God, if you do this for me, I'll do that for you. But it can be subtle in that it can be just, what if? What if this? Depression is this, of course, the sadness, but depression is more if it goes on past the sadness, like, you know, crying every day and not getting out of bed and not getting on with life. So recognizing that the depression is more than just the grief, expression of grief. Acceptance is when we are at peace with letting go. So at first we may let go and then quickly pick it up again. However, over time we should be able to finalize the act and able to let go and move on. So here's the important steps to follow. Go through the grief steps. Don't jump over them or camp out there. Both of those things are not good for the process. Remember that the steps are not sequential. You may go back and forth. Find someone who will walk by your side. Challenge your thoughts. Don't minimize or catastrophize. Both those things. Sometimes people minimize their pain and sometimes they catastrophize their pain. So try to just challenge your thoughts. Be patient with yourself. That's one thing that I've had to learn, that I have limited energy, that I have to be patient with my emotions some days. Be patient with yourself. Find something valuable to do. What can you do that's valuable that can help you move on? And smile sometime each day. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for new videos every week. If you would like to hear more information on this subject or any subject, please visit my blog at carolromeo.com.